incredible that works with women, predominantly Asian background women, and predominantly Muslim Asian background women. And she is basically turning their life around. I found her on YouTube. We actually living in the same city, and we have a tea and coffee date somewhere in the future already booked. But the work that you're doing, Maria, is absolutely incredible, because you're changing those clients of yours' life. And not only do you work within Islamic ethos, not only you're working within cultural understanding, but also you're working with deep stuff, don't you? Like childhood trauma, childhood abuse, and generational trauma. So I hope this is giving a justice to your work. If there's anything I need to mention, please correct me, but I'm quite excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me into your group. It's a real honor to be here and to connect with your community. So yes, I've been coaching and using various other modalities in my work, and it's been a really fascinating journey for myself and for my clients. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here to share things with you and your community.
Well, we're more than excited to have you, that's for sure. So let's start. What is trauma? You know, what is generational trauma? What are the signs? How can we as practitioners, you as a coach or me as a psychotherapist and counselor, how can we recognize this trauma when it sits in front of us?
So what I've realized from my own experience and from my trainings and my clients is that when we have limiting beliefs, we have these beliefs that are held at the subconscious level, and they can be sneaky little things. You know, we may not necessarily know that they're there, but they are driving us. They're driving our decisions. A lot of the decisions that we make are good decisions, but some of them may not be so good decisions. And it's not always very clear until we reach, you know, a point in our lives where we're feeling distressed or stuck, or things aren't working out as we want them to. And with my trainings, what I've realized is that a lot of our beliefs come from very young. These are beliefs that kind of form from the people who are around us. It could be our parents, it could be extended family, it could even be our teachers. You know, it's those comments that are made, which we interpret in some way to mean something else. Because as a child, we want to feel safe, okay? But sometimes in our wanting to keep safe, we create a meaning to something that's being said around us. So, for example, a recent conversation I've had with one of my clients is this idea of unworthiness, you know, where it came up that they felt unworthy. And it wasn't an obvious thing. You know, people don't necessarily think, oh, I feel unworthy. But there'll be things going on in their environment, in the way that they're thinking, or the conversations they're having, their relationships, which underneath the layers, there's this feeling of unworthiness. And initially they felt it was to do with their spouse, because of the way that the relationship was, it was really strained. But then as you dig deeper, it became to do with the parents, because there was although they had in their own words, they had a good upbringing and childhood and a happy childhood. When they actually explored it a bit deeper, they said that they didn't feel they were ever praised. There was never any praise. Even when they did well, there was never any praise. But then as we went deeper, there was these incidences when they were very young, where they were being compared in a good way, in a sense, because they were being compared to their cousins. And they said, you know, they were getting the praise because they were fairer, right? So this is the thing in our community about skin color. They were fairer, they were taller, they were more intelligent. But in her mind, people were saying this to her, but in her mind, she felt really sad for her cousin, who was, who she was being compared to. And in order to protect her cousin, she created this belief that I don't deserve those things, so I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
Right. And then it goes further back as you explore this further back into another situation. So, this belief that we have as an adult, and with a lot of all our limiting beliefs, in fact, will actually stem from our childhood. And in our childhood, there are these conversations happening. There are things being said, it could be mom on the telephone, it could be relatives coming around and having a conversation. These repeated conversations create a meaning in our lives. And, that's how we transfer those beliefs that our parents had into beliefs that we have. And then we pass it on to our children.
Yeah, this is a really great example, and I've seen so many aspects of it flaring on my work as well with Asian clients. What I've actually done for myself, I gave myself an effort of understanding why I'm seeing certain patterns, same patterns within the same diversity. So if I have clients coming to me and they are of an Asian background, I experience that if anything, what's underlying is anxieties. Yeah, my Asian clients, women or men together, really, they sort of struggling with anxieties, and then I was making an effort to understand where is that coming from, because when you live in this community, you also hear your nana, your grandparents, your aunties, you hear them saying, oh, you need to work hard, you need to really achieve, because they're going to kick us out to our own country, and you have to reinvest all this money, and you have to build all this house, because you never know. So naturally, you're going to grow in that idea of unsafety. You're talking about low self-esteem, and that comes up also within an Arab community, where they are sort of Arab and African. They sort of compared to each other by their looks or by their achievement. It's all about how you're presenting yourself, and the skin and the eye color comes in there. This is completely different worlds to me when I was starting practicing and seeing the clients. But then I've made my effort and I made my research thinking, where is that coming from? Why those people feeling less than others? What's that discrimination between white and black, white and brown, brown and browner, black and blacker? And my conclusion coming to one point, which is colonization. Yeah. And in a sense, dislocation as well, living as immigrants, first generation, third generation, fourth generation right now here in UK, that has a huge impact, not only on your economics, but also on your self-esteem. And if you're being passed, just like you beautifully presented to us, certain ideas about your safety, about your security, of your self-worthiness, of your resilience, you're sort of growing to believe that. That's not the reality out there. However, it sort of grows on you and you're limiting yourself. And I think that's how you started, limiting beliefs, isn't it? But that is not yours to keep. That is not yours to keep. Now, I want to give you a voice, I promise you. I wonder if you worked with Black community, especially Jamaican community. What I found with them is that defensiveness. I didn't know how to get through. I didn't know what is it that I'm doing wrong on my sessions. For them to feel so anxious in attachment styles in relationship with me, it's really such a difficult job for beginners in therapy to understand diversity, until I started researching slavery. And then I understood. Then I understood. And there's 1,000 examples. Psychology actually now, they're coming to understanding that trauma is a real thing. They don't know really what to do with it, but they still under research, but they actually understanding that generational trauma, it's actually a phenomena, and it goes back very, very far back, even to First or Second World War. And they've started doing those research on the example of slavery, but also Holocaust. Also Holocaust. So it is actually a real thing. But I think the bottom line that I am using when I work with my clients is not only inner child, like you beautifully mentioned, but also the fact it is borrowed. Is it yours? It is conditioning. It is not your choice. So I wonder, Maria, if you agreeing with me so far, if that sounds something that you're experiencing as well, what are the turning points in your practice? Meaning, what really makes a difference? What is it that you've noticed that 10 things around for them cut that chain of trauma, generational trauma for your clients?
So, I totally agree with what you're saying. And with generation trauma, especially when people have gone through something like slavery or gone through war and things like this filters through into the now, because those conversations are happening. The parents have gone through what they've gone through and maybe have not had their own healing journey themselves, and so whatever they're feeling is inadvertently being spoken about, and then the children are picking it up in their own interpretation. And you also mentioned something else, which was anxiety and fear. And this is such a huge thing in the Asian community. And I'm really kind of, quite fascinated, because I'm a convert to Islam as well, as you are. And I know that, in my journey, I've been Muslim for about 20 years, and in my journey, it was always around fear, fear of Allah. It's always like you have to do the right thing out of fear. But now I've actually kind of turned that around, and I see things in a different way, which is that, Allah is love. Right, so we do things out of love for Allah, and that's the way that I, with my own children, that I've tried to encourage the love aspect rather than the fear. We pray out of love for Allah, not out of fear that if we don't pray that, we're going to go to hell. So there's a lot of these conversations and these fears that I find in the Muslim community, especially a lot of fear that's based on disobeying Allah, but also how the community perceives them. This fear of what other people will say, what the culture, the kind of cultural norms around them, what will happen if they do something different. And so they're very much, kind of suppressed into not really being able to express themselves in the way that they would want to. And the other thing that comes up quite often is this idea of patience, patience and sabr, just have sabr, just have patience. And it's very much a patience based on almost like denying what's actually they're feeling, and dismissing it and pushing it under the carpet, and just leaving it there, and just having patience, because that's the, you'll have the reward from Allah. And yes, that's all true. I don't disagree with that, but I think for me, true patience is when you actually don't mind with what's happened. You're totally in acceptance. And there's complete love there with the situation. That to me is a higher level of patience than patience where it's, I really don't want this to happen, but there's not much I can do about it, and so I'm just going to keep quiet about it. So a higher level would be to just accept and to have that love for it and the gratitude for what's happened. So it's a kind of a different way of thinking about the same situation that's happening.
quite opposite. Quite opposite, isn't it? You're using sort of this healing law is called a law of opposites or law of mirroring, right? No, actually, law of opposites. Sorry. So what I hear from you is that the best solution for generational trauma in your practice is first of all owning the fact that you are dismissing something, meaning your emotions. You are denying some privilege to yourself, and you're suppressing certain emotion and certain truth for yourself. So first owning it, and then applying virtues which are found in Islamic psychology, such as shukr, hamd, gratitude, acceptance, which is very close to tawakkul, to trusting that, you know, things are the way they're supposed to be. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And love, which is rahma. Am I getting it right?
Yeah.